What is up, all of my beautiful freaking people? Welcome back to another episode of FML Talk. Today's episode is really near and dear to my heart and kind of a crazy full circle moment for me. The medium John Edward is here on FML Talk today, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear this interview. So sit back, grab a drink, invite your spirit guides in, and welcome to FML Talk.
Oh my God.
Wait, how old was the other girl?
19. Can you believe that shit?
Hey, this is Gabrielle Stone.
Good book?
Untitled Chapter. He did what? 48 hours?
What a dick.
Yeah, but have you seen all the photos on her Instagram?
And this is FML Talk.
Oh, no, she didn't.
Y'all know I love a good self-love cocktail and occasionally an actual cocktail. I have always notoriously hated the taste of alcohol and needed it disguised in a good mixology cocktail until I discovered Neft. Because Neft is a premium vodka in its purest form with non-GMO rye, it has a light taste full of character. Not only is Neft one of the best tasting vodkas I've ever had, it also comes in the cutest packaging I have ever seen. Their unbreakable barrel keeps it chilled for up to 6 hours, making it the perfect drink to take just about anywhere. Join me in adding a little actual cocktail into your self-love cocktail with Neft vodka. Cheers! You guys, the first time I met John Edward, I was 15 in my throes of like angsty teen years and ended up going to a reading that my mom was having for his TV show that he had at the time and was like, this is bullshit, you know, fucking mediums, talking to people on the other side, whatever. And by the time I left that recording, I was like, I'm a fucking believer. There's another side. We communicate with the dead. Great. Like full on fucking believer. He changed my life. I have only met him twice, and both times are staples in the timeline of my life that really changed the way that I was going to exist moving forward. He is an incredible human. This interview ended up being so wildly fun to chat with him and really pick his brain about what it is that he does. I had questions from my FMLers that you guys submitted, and we really just dig into every aspect of it. So without further ado, here is the infamous John Edward. John Edwards, I can't even really believe I'm saying that, but welcome to FML Talk, dude.
Well, I can't believe I'm here. It's been a long time and so happy to see you. And I'm happy to see your success, not as the route you've taken to get here, but I think it's amazing what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. I so appreciate that. When I saw your name pop up on my viral video in my TikTok comments, I was like, holy shit, this man changed my life. And now we're reconnecting on TikTok. I was so excited.
And I was actually really excited to read that because I was like, should I respond? I'm like, she probably doesn't remember who I am. I'm like, all right, I'm going to respond anyway, because I was like, you know,
she doesn't remember who I am. Come on.
No, I'm serious. I was really serious. Like when I was like lying on the couch, I'm like, I'm going to respond in a personal way, but like, what if she's like, you know, who's this? And I've been doing this work for a really long time, and I've read for a lot of celebrities. And let me just say that there's one instance that stands in my mind where I was at LAX and this specific individual was walking towards the gates as I was walking the opposite direction. And the look of like literal sheer panic and fear that I was going to approach them and have a conversation with them in public was
wow.
no, I can't be seen talking to you. And I just had that moment of like, okay. So like, I've always referred to myself as the pool boy when it comes to like celebrity stuff. Like when there's a party on Saturday and the pool's dirty, it's like, I'm your best friend. But then it's like very few and far between invites to that same party. So I've kind of like looked at, and I've put myself in that position just so I don't get disappointed by people. So
that's so interesting. Why do you think that is? Because now, I mean, especially now, because, well, okay, when you were really doing your TV show and really, you know, in the public eye in a big way, that was a while ago, before social media, before everyone was so accessible. Now there's there's mediums that are, everywhere, and you like, it's very accepted.
Everybody's a medium. It's like, I can't flip through TikTok or social media without somebody having psychic medium in their title. And it's one of the reasons what actually made me go on and flip the camera around, because TikTok was my escape. Like when TikTok, started to, generate some like energy, I went to my kids. I'm like, TikTok? And they looked at me like, do not go on there. That is like not, they're like, that is not, you are too old for TikTok. I was like, no. I just want to know about it. Like, what is it? And they told me what it used to be and that it's now morphed into this and it's probably going to go away. And I remember thinking, I don't think so. I think this is going to blow up. And I got hooked. Like it was like my early pandemic escape, like the pranks and the musical things. And I didn't realize, I didn't even think there was a psychic side to TikTok. To me, it was like scares and dogs and like
dances.
Pranks and dances, right?
Yeah.
It was like fun stuff. And then after like a year and a half or so, I stumbled across, it wasn't lives yet. It wasn't like coming across the lives. It was like people's videos and it was hashtag witch talk or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I literally got transported like in a time machine back to 1985. And I felt like I was in a ballroom of a psychic fair here on Long Island with a bunch of literally with a bunch of wacky people who were claiming to be psychic. And some of them were, but they were weird. And that's what it felt like. I was like, whoa, this is like time warpy. So I kept hitting not interested.
You're like, not my niche.
I was like, no, I don't want to be on this. And then I came across a couple of lives. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh man, now I got to go like teach. Like I got to show people like, this is wrong. So I decided that I didn't want to have a platform that was going to stitch and duet videos where I go, this is bullshit. Like, this is not real. And instead I'm like, let me just do what I've always done, which is teach and lead by example. And hopefully people see the difference. But It's really hard. It's really hard because I really want to stitch and duet some of these and be like, this is not real.
Yeah. And there's so many things that come across your For You page that are like, someone has a message for you and like, this is coming through. And if this is on your For You page, it's meant for you. And you're like, come on, guys, like, this isn't real. So speaking of not believing in mediums, let me explain to you my first encounter with you. Because I was thinking about this interview and I was like, should I do this in the intro? And then I was like, no, I should tell him because I probably have never shared this with you or had the opportunity to. So when you were doing your show, you obviously had one segment where you were reading celebrities and my mom was invited to be a part of that. So I think I was like 15 at the time. So I was in my angsty, like everything is bullshit, like this is dumb phase of my life. And I went with her and we were kept in the green room. So she was on set reading with you and all of a sudden you stop and you're like, do you have someone with you? And my mom's like, yes. And you were like, okay, she needs to, she didn't even say like, it's my daughter or it's a she or a he. And you were like, she needs to come out here. So they brought me out onto the couch and my dad came through and you proceeded to tell me stuff that I don't care how far into the depths of Google you go, or even if you spoke to people that were in our inner circle, like no one could know these things. And when we showed up, I was like, this is medium. Okay. Like we're going to talk to the other side. Like I was not a believer. You were the person that at 15 made me be like, there is another side. People can communicate with them and we go on after we die. And it totally shifted my perspective and gave me such comfort in how I moved forward in my own spirituality, how I view death now. And it was really a pivotal moment for me in that regard.
Oh, that is amazing to actually hear. Thank you. Because I was 15 when I actually came into the subject matter. So how interesting is that? And
and
I have and my daughter literally just turned 15 this year. So, I think when we're talking about energy and we're talking about loss at a young age, you lost your dad young, and he was in the public eye and your mom's in the public eye, right? I lost my mom when I was 19. It's a pivotal period of time of development when you're not quite the person that you're going to become. And all of a sudden life throws you a curveball. And then
Yeah.
you go, wait a minute. No, no, no. Like this isn't how it's supposed to be. And in my case, I almost had the opposite experience that you did, right? I came from it where I came into the subject matter because I was skeptical. I had a reading that put me on my path. My mom was very into the subject matter. But then I was very disappointed because my guides, right? We all have a team of energies that work with us. They gave me a heads up about an uncle's illness and subsequent passing that I tried to stop. And then a year and a half to 2 years later, they didn't give me any insights about my mom's cancer. And I feel like they let her die. And I went to a place of anger. Like I didn't care that there was another side. I didn't care that this was possible. I felt betrayed. I'm like, that's not cool. Like, it's not cool that you can let me help other people, but I really wasn't able to help her or myself in some way. And what I've kind of learned in all the years of doing this is that the hard balls, right, that we are thrown, the things that are the waves that knock us over are the biggest teachers in our lives. And I've come to a place of gratitude for those moments. I've come to a place of going like, I mean, let's be real. Nobody wants to go through them. But when you can look and ride that wave to shore and go, okay, what do I do with this? Like, what am I supposed to learn from it? I can either be a victim of the circumstance or make life an adventure. And I kind of feel like I took the adventure route, and you clearly have, right? You clearly have. You started a global movement of empowerment, And I remember when I first saw your book, right? And I was like, wow. And I had an adverse reaction when it was in my hand, like, ooh. And I wasn't sure what it was. I wasn't sure what the like, were you going to get slammed because of the book? Were you gonna? And then I realized it was like, you were creating the wave. You were creating a wave for other people to wake up to. And I
love that.
And it's like, but people don't like when you're the mirror. They don't like it because then you're forcing them to look at a reflection of things that they might already know but don't want to deal with. But thank you. Thank you for saying that. That's really that's very moving.
Yeah, absolutely. And the second time I saw you was when my high school sweetheart passed, and my mom she showed me the email, because when I came home, I was like, show me that email that you sent John. You must have told him something. And the email literally said, John, my daughter lost her boyfriend. She's devastated. Can you see her? Like, that was it. It was so simple. There was no clues of anything. And my girlfriend and I brought my best friend with me, and we came and met you at a Beverly Hills hotel.
I remember. That's the meeting that I remember.
Yeah. So I was 18 then, and we came and sat down, and the information that came through when my high school sweetheart came forward was so powerful. And I've never talked about this publicly, and I swore I wasn't going to bring this up, but here we are. You looked at me and you were like, he wants you to know that the baby's with him and they're okay together. And I had what I now can look back at and realize was a miscarriage really early on, but felt like a very heavy, painful period. And no one knew that. No one knew that I had been late, that I was like, oh my God, like, what if this is actually happening and now he's dead and I have to deal with this? So it was such accurate personal information. And then at the end of the reading, you said, because there was another boy in the car that died with him that came through as well. And he was like, they want you guys to both know, me and my best friend that was there, that they're like balloons attached to a car. And you guys are in the car and you don't really feel the balloons there, but they're always with you and they're always moving with you. John, I'm not kidding. We left that hotel and we were driving down Beverly Boulevard, and there was an SUV with a ski rack with a dozen balloons tied to the fucking top of it. I mean, have you ever seen that in your life? Someone transport balloons that way?
But don't you love the validation? I mean, to me, the validation is amazing. And for the folks that can't hear this, but can't see it, but can hear it, in front of me at all times is I have a rock. This rock is probably like 35 years old. And if you look at it, it says trust.
I love that.
And one of the things that I've had to always do is in the work is trust what's coming through. And, I guess one of the best teaching moments that I was given early on when I first started was just know that you don't have to be right all the time. And I remember thinking like, isn't that like kind of what we're supposed to be going for?
Right.
And the woman said to me, no. She goes, you want to strive to be accurate. Being right means you got somebody to agree with you. So I never forgot that. And for me, my entire career has been like, I want to be accurate. And sometimes to be accurate, you might sound wrong, but you go out on a limb. And I don't think it matters if you're doing readings or if you're being a life coach and empowering people, if you're a nurse. I think you want to be accurate. You want to be precise with what it is that you're doing. So this way, you don't have to have somebody just agree with you to agree with you. You know that you're making a difference. And that's been my mantra. My mantra is always, I want to leave people better than I find them, right? I just want to leave people better than I find them. So that's cool.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So let's talk about how your specific gift comes through, because I know there's differences with different mediums. People experience things in different ways. How, when you're communicating with someone from the other side, how does that come through? Like, what's your experience in that?
So I always use the word ability, right? So I take the word gift and I turn it into ability, because I feel like when we look at the word gift, it makes it seem like one person's more special than another. So what I've done is I've used my ability that I've worked at now for 4 decades, and that ability allows me to open up and read energy. The way the energy comes through to me, right? My psychic filter would be clairaudience first, clairvoyance second, and clairsentience third. So basically I'm hearing first, seeing second, but it's kind of like neck and neck. And then I'm getting feelings. So what I see, hear, and feel, I then interpret in my frame of reference. And I try to be as objective as I possibly can. Here's what I'm feeling. Here's what I'm seeing. Here's what I'm hearing. Here's what it makes me feel. And I'll ask my client to say, just validate yes and no what you do understand. Unless I need to facilitate something and be like, do you have this? And then we move on to the next part. And then I try to provide as much evidence as possible, like you've experienced, so people know that it's their loved one, their friend, that they're that person. And then if there are things that are coming in that are future related, I've validated enough for them to write down and remember what's coming up so that they can either alter it, prepare for it, change it, celebrate it.
Yeah. Okay. So you do, apart from communicating with people that have passed on, you do get future information as well.
Yeah, that's how I started.
Oh, interesting.
I started doing
I didn't know that.
I had no interest in dead people. Dead people did not show up until 1987. 1985 was when I started. 2 years, I was like the wonder kid of Long Island that would like predict your future. Like I had like a long list of people that wanted readings just for that reason. And then after my uncle passed in 1987, there was a shift there where information started to come through. And that was preparing me, I believe, for my mom's own passing in 1989. But I remember having to apologize to my clients. And I would say, listen, I know you're here because you want to know about like relationships and job stuff. I go, apparently I'm a medium. And I go, I got to get them out of the way in the beginning. I say, because if I don't get them out of the way, they interrupt the session. And people would look at me like, all right, And then some people were just blown away by the mediumship portion. They didn't care about the other stuff. But now it's a hybrid. It is I mean, my work's always been a hybrid, but it's definitely more of, it's like part mediumship, part what's going on now, part what's coming up for you, and then part lesson. Like, what are we supposed to learn? What's the insight? Like why are you here? Like, what's the now? So I kind of feel like I've trying to get people to kind of break through where they're at in their lives and evolve through the passings and what's the lesson, and maybe reframe some of their choices in the way that they're thinking.
Yeah. Is it easier for you to read people that you don't know as opposed to like people that you have an in-depth relationship with, or like knowledge of what's going on in their life?
Easier in the sense that it takes their, well, you knew that, off the table. Like it takes that out of the way. I mean, it can be done. I prefer not to. It's like family and friends, I usually send them to a colleague. But if I've had like clients before, like I have in the last, in the pandemic, I've had clients that have come back a couple of times. I've been doing a lot of Zoom work, and maybe like I've seen somebody now for the 3rd time, and I'll be like I see, like I know you,
Right.
So it's like, trust me, I'm going to like, refund you your fee, send you to this person. And it's not that I don't want to do it. The pressure that it puts on me to do it and get information that's not what I like already have said before. Yeah. In a private reading is one thing, but if I got a group of like 10 other people that are watching, I don't feel like it's fair to them. So
yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So for the mediumship, when someone's coming through, is it when you say, I get what the different steps are, when the audio is coming through, is it you're hearing a voice? Is it always the same voice? Is it that person's voice?
So have you ever had the moment where you're reading a paragraph and you're having to go back and reread it because you had another thought happening simultaneously?
Like literally all the fucking time.
You're psychic. No, that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. And when I first started doing this, probably about 6 different other psychics that I met, they'd say, "Oh, you're very clairaudient." And by definition, that means clear hearing. And I remember thinking, I'm not hearing anything. Like there's not, I'm not really hearing anything. Like I was expecting an out loud hearing. And then I realized like, oh, it's that, right? It's the thought voice that's coming in, which actually originates not in your ears, but in your throat chakra. Because we have like 7 energy centers in your body, and the throat chakra is where your clairaudience faculty kicks in. So energetically, that's where I'm getting my information. It's what I'm thinking. So it's like I'm hearing it, but it's a thought that's coupled with a picture. So it's kind of like, it's like 2 things kind of coming together, but it's so fast that it's like a download. So like if I said to you, mouse, Florida, cheese, white gloves, castle, what am I talking about? Right. What would you think?
I remember you doing, well, Disneyland. Yeah.
Right.
I remember you doing that in our readings too. It was like very specific, like pictures or images or, you know, the letter this has to do with it.
Yep.
So when you see the pictures, is it kind of just like you're watching like a movie play out or just images in your brain?
It's like flashes. It's like flashes. It's a scene. Sometimes it's a scene of my life. Sometimes it's a scene of a movie, a piece of a TV show, an experience that I've had, a past reading. So it's like an immediate, like it's a shorthand. How do I get him to say this? So they'll do that to get me to say that. And then sometimes I think I go off in the wrong direction and they must be like, what the hell?
That is not where we were going.
Like, what is he talking about? That's not what I meant. But yeah, that's kind of like playing like psychic Pictionary sometimes.
Right. Has there ever been an energy that's come through that has scared you at all or felt like, ooh, this is different?
So when you think scare, we think of like paranormal and like ghost hunting. And in that capacity, no. I was interviewed by a newspaper here on Long Island, probably 1997. And it went through 3 reporters. And it wound up with a guy, Bill Falk. People can go look it up, Falk. And the 2 other journalists had passed on it. One of them had later told me that it was supposed to be an expose on exposing me as a fraud and not being real. And the guy that did the article in passing mentioned he had lost, I think, a sibling. I think he said he lost a sibling. And during the course of it, he goes, listen, he goes, I really want to, dig deep here. And I went, dig away. And he goes, can I bring somebody for you to read? And I went, yeah. He goes, I could bring anybody. Okay, you can bring anybody. He goes, what do you need to know? I go, nothing. And he goes, perfect. Now, he would have asked me who I thought he would have brought. Clearly, it would have been his parents, right? They get a free reading out of it. They can get some healing, some closure. He's got a personal angle he could write about. Oh, no. This dude brought in a public defender for somebody who was put to death by lethal injection in Texas. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's exactly. Now, I don't know who this woman is, but I'm sitting here with this woman and I'm like making a connection with this energy that's coming in. And I remember feeling this guy was impaled on a pin. I'm like, how do you get impaled on a pin? And I'm like, it didn't make, nothing was making logical sense. And then he gave me the beginning of the last name of the other defense attorney, like all of this other kind of stuff. It's pretty wild, right? But that energy coming in, that energy didn't feel good. That energy felt like yuck. Now, I don't think that my team, my guides, my security peeps, I don't think they would have let that reading happen unless it was being documented for factual, evidential information. But it was and it turned out to be like the cover story of the Sunday edition, part 2. It was a huge deal, 7 pages. And I remember thinking like, wow, like that was huge. That was intense. And it was also kind of like my first real taste of people knowing like who you are for what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I went to a pizza place the next day. So it was like on Sunday. So it was like on a Monday. It was like Monday night. And the girl at the counter went, "Oh my God, like you're that guy." And I was like, "Yep, I am that guy."
You're like, know? and here comes the wave.
I was like, I wrote it for about 5-10 minutes, like waiting for my slices to come out of the oven. And then like my guides kicked in and they were like, "Yeah, let me show you what guide you actually are." And I shit you not, they showed me my face lining the bottom of bird cages. They showed me puppies being paper trained and like dogs peeing on me. Right. And they were like, wait, they were legitimately going like, have your moment of like, this is cool for you. Like have your Snoopy moment, happy dance. It's a great 7-page spread. Knock yourself out. But now let's be realistic. Where are those papers today? They're helping people, wrap up their stuff that they're moving glassware in, right? Like,
oh my God. So your guides have a sense of humor.
Oh yeah. The puppies like being paper trained in my face, like while I'm waiting for my pizza to come out was a moment that I'll never forget that. I remember going like, all right. Okay.
Fair enough. That's hysterical. Have you ever felt like when you're having a conversation casually with someone where someone from the other side just kind of bursts in and interrupts you?
So when I was inexperienced, unethical, and blaming on my youth, yes. I just want to qualify. And the reason why it's never ethical to enter someone's vibration without their consent or their permission. And I had done that. I worked at a video store. And for the people that are too young to know what that is, think Netflix, but in a building. It's like Netflix in a building.
I remember Blockbuster. I was around. Okay.
So I managed a video store and people would walk up to the counter with their boxes to, check them out. And I would attack read them. And I wasn't coming from a place of teaching or healing or empowering. I was coming from a place of like, can I get her to date me? Can I wow this person? It was like, I was coming from a human teenage place. And then a mentor at the time said, "Can I ask you a question?" I went, "Sure." She goes, "Would you ever watch your neighbor shower?" I'm like, "What?" And she goes, "From the outside of her house, would you ever watch your neighbor shower?" And I said, "Sandy, why would you ask me that?" She's like, "Yes, her bathroom on the first floor." I'm like, "Okay, 1, yeah." I go, 2, no. I'm like, "Why are you asking me that?" It was a weird question. If another psychic asks you a question, like as a psychic, you don't ever just take it at face value. You want to know,
no.
Why are you asking me this? Like, what are you getting? And and she goes, "Just because you could doesn't mean you should." And I'm like, "Sandy, I would never do that." And she goes, "Exactly. Now never do it psychically." And it was like, oh, because people who have the ability can definitely do it. And I know that in the last 2 decades, there's been a lot of people who've developed and they didn't get that memo, so there's a lot of YouTube psychics and TikTok psychics and a lot of ambushing and attack reading. It's kind of not karmically correct. It's unethical, So I always tell people, if somebody ever approaches you to do a reading and you didn't ask them for it, stop them, because they're not really reading. They're demonstrating their ego. They're not demonstrating their ability.
Yes. Big yes to that. Okay. So I have some questions that all of my FMLers were like so excited to hear from you. Let me pull them up and we'll go through and see which ones you think you might have some insight or answers for. I have always wondered, how do I know what person is sending me the sign? Like, is it the first person that comes to mind, or is there a way to tell who the sign is coming from?
So I always ask people to come from a place of being skeptical first, right? So I follow the 95-5 rule. 95% of the time, let's try to logically and rationally explain away the experience until we get to the 5% where we say thank you and come from a place of gratitude. So you can go with the initial instinct, but sometimes the initial instinct is who you want it to be. So you want to look at what exactly is happening and can I correlate this to a specific person? So if you see a symbol of something and that symbol represents an individual who's passed, that's kind of like the indicator of who it is. But if there's
Right.
nothing that's tangible, like by date or image or anything else, and it's just a feeling, then you go by that instinct of who you feel it is.
That's really interesting. Okay. How is it that we have how is it that we have traumas from past lives that we don't even know who we were, and why do they affect us so much in this life? So we've talked a little bit on this show how we can carry over things from past life and, past life regressions and being able to like heal those and clear those out. So how is it that we carry those traumas that have happened in past lives into this one?
So my background's in healthcare, and a lot of my analogies and teaching comes from working in healthcare. I was both on the clinical side and my degrees in healthcare and public administration. So that's kind of like my space. Think about when you're a child and you get chickenpox. You have the experience of having chickenpox, and then all of a sudden that is in your past, right? It's your part of your past life, in same lifetime, but it's this lifetime in your past. But then years later, decades later, you find yourself going through a situation, an FML situation maybe, and all of a sudden, what shows up? Shingles, right? The trauma in your body presents itself physically. So now, no different than the chickenpox and shingles analogy, just make the chickenpox in a past life, not this lifetime. So the things that are not dealt with, the patterns that are not dealt with that we come back to re-deal with, that kind of get reawakened or re-looked at or reignited. It's important to be able to kind of work through some of those things, not to blame. I had a client once where she needed to get a job. Like, it was very clear in the reading. And she kept like talking very metaphysical. She had all the right words and all she'd been to the top people. And she said, let me explain to you. In a past life, I was enslaved. So in this lifetime, I am to be taken care of. And I literally remember thinking, like, while I'm on the phone with her, like, who's going to pay your rent? Like, you need to get a job. Like, it's great to know that you were enslaved, and it's great to understand why you have this consciousness, but the universe still wants you to like take care of yourself. Otherwise, you're looking for the next person to sugar daddy your life, which would basically enslave you again in a different capacity. So I think it's important to look at what our traumas are, whether it be in our past in this lifetime or in our past lives, and then understand, what do we do with them? How do we turn them around and learn from them and move forward so that we're not kind of continuing the saga?
Yeah. Ooh, absolutely. I think that's, everybody just rewind the last 30 seconds or so and re-listen to that, because that was a really, really good response. Why do we get the feeling of deja vu? Is it something from a past life?
So I don't think that deja vu is a past life, because we weren't ourselves in a past life, right? So what we can have is a familiar feeling because of a place that we've been, and in a past life we could have been in that place, and that could be so. If it's destination deja vu, then sure. But a lot of times I think the deja vu moments that were happening, I explain it in two ways. One, let's go clinical first. If you take a camera, right? Our brain is like a camera, and you walk into a space, we're taking in all the stimuli all around us, but we're only focusing on maybe the one thing that we're looking at. And then all of a sudden we catch up with the other stuff that we've already seen and processed. So now when we catch up to it consciously, we feel like, oh, wait, I've been here before. I've seen this, because we did, but you didn't consciously connect with it. So I think that's a scientific maybe way of looking at it, like how our brain works. But I also truly believe that we are precognitive dreamers. And I think that because of when we're sleeping, our unconscious mind kind of like goes down the highway of our lives, and we have these moments, these snapshots, these postcards that we get of where we're going. And I think that there is where our deja vu comes in a big way. Because sometimes when people focus on their deja vu, it's not just, ooh, I've done this before. It's, I've done this before and I know what's coming next.
Yeah. I've had those moments for sure. That's such an interesting way of looking at that. That gives it like a whole new kind of like exciting perspective of like you're getting little glimpses into what your subconscious knows your journey and your path is going to be. That's fun. All right, I'm here for that. We're gonna go with that answer, whether it's accurate or not. Are we still learning lessons from past lives that we didn't learn in this life?
100%. And I think that we're also interacting with people, in our lifetime. Part of the journey for me in the 4 decades now of doing this has always been buzzwords about the subject matter. And in the 80s, I want to say it was the 80s, the late 80s, early 90s, the buzzword for any client coming was, am I going to meet my soulmate? Am I going to meet my soulmate? Am I going to meet my soulmate? So, now it's twin flame. I don't know if you've, it's like people want to.
Oh, John, the amount of DMs I get saying, this was your twin flame. And like, have you read up on this? I'm like, guys, I know. I know all about it.
Yeah. So I had a little bit of a meltdown once on a client. I'm going to say she's definitely not my biggest fan. Because it had been a number of years of me reading for her and a number of years of having to navigate the same patterns that she was choosing to just duplicate. And I just wasn't having it this day. I was not in the place for it. And I'm very clear that I'm not a therapist. And I suggested that she go to therapy to work through some of the patterns. And she goes, I'm just looking for my soulmate. I'm like, do you know what that actually means? It means you've had multiple incarnations with the same energy and you're carrying a shit ton of baggage that's unfinished. It's going to be heaven and hell wrapped up in a very quickly burnt out moment. I go, so no, you're really not looking for that. What you want truly is a soulmate type relationship. I go, and that you have to work at. That's something that people have to create. That's where you have to come from a baseline of friendship, and then empower the sexuality of it. I said, but Hollywood's done a really good job to make people want that soulmate relationship, my other half, my twin flame. And it's great when people can find that. But even when people find that, they got to work at it. Like, it's not like, it's like, here you go. No problems. Yeah. It's all good. It's like all relationships you got to work at.
I fully believe that the guy that came into my life and then broke up with me before the Europe trip was a twin flame situation, because it's to a T. Like, come into your life, like absolute, like love, amazing, all encompassing. Oh my God, this is it forever. And then like, boom, it's fucking erupted in your face. And you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to recover from this. This person just like ripped my soul out. Right. To a T. It's horrible. It's a horrible experience to go through. I've had multiple friends be like, this is that person to me. And it's always this like destructive thing that comes into your life. It's not like this like happy, pretty experience.
Yeah. Somebody said to me once, it was another psychic, she's now passed. And she said, oh, you had the hydrogen peroxide experience. I'm like, what? And she goes, that the relationship you just went through. She goes, you had the hydrogen peroxide. She goes, the first one was where you got really badly cut up. Like you fell off your bike and you bruised your knee really, really badly. Then it kind of started to get a little infected. So then this new like relationship comes in, and it's like the hydrogen peroxide. It cleans out the wound. It kind of, gets the infection going. But, you really should probably not have put hydrogen peroxide in there because it's killing the healthy cells too. So now you're going to have to like heal a little bit harder. And it just was like,
yep.
I was like, okay. I'm like, so hydrogen peroxide is bad for cuts? Like, that's like, I thought that was a good thing. And she laughed and said, no. She's like, soap and water. I was like,
You're like, okay, so I'm looking for my Neosporin relationship next. Oh my God. Yes. So accurate. Okay. So this kind of touches on what we talked about when that, darker energy came through, but has he ever crossed paths with a demonic entity or dark spirit?
So I'm going to answer in a way that people would not expect. I'm going to say yes, but they're human.
Mm-hmm.
I am actually
that makes sense to me.
I'm actually more concerned about the evil that lies within the heart of living human beings than the negative energy that's outside of the universe. Some of what I've witnessed over the last 5 years and some of what I've seen people hold on to, define themselves through, celebrate, acknowledge, all in the face of their beliefs, their faith, their politics, their God, their this, their that, scares the crap out of me, And I was just having a conversation earlier where I was like, when you travel outside of the United States and you have a non-United States perspective, because you listen to other people's perspectives about, the US, there are countries around the world that cannot imagine that our kids have to be fear-based and going to school because they could be shot.
Yeah.
And it's one of those moments where like that to me is an evil concept. You know, that little kids could go to school and not come home. And
Yep.
you know, I'm not anti-gun. I get the whole gun thing. I'm like, I can see it. I understand how the United States is based on, you know, and I don't mean like the rights of the gun, but the concept of like guns and, you know, the country developing. But whether it be, you know, belief, and I remember literally standing in an apartment in Queens, New York, learning about the Holocaust because there was an ABC miniseries called Holocaust. And I remember asking my mother, what is that? And having her give me this expression of, how do I explain the Holocaust to this kid? And then
Right.
He made me watch The Sound of Music. My introduction to the Holocaust was The Sound of Music. And then it was the Holocaust. And then it was showing me stuff. And I just remember saying to her, why would people let that happen? And she
Right.
looked at me like it didn't happen overnight. And I'm like, yeah, but there's right and there's wrong. Why would people let that happen? And I clearly have revisited that little boy in the last, you know, few years going, okay, you know, I'm going to be that voice that when people bring stuff up, I'm going to acknowledge stuff. And I remember having somebody celebrity wise say to me, you know, you need to be careful about your public statements. And I said, regarding, and they acknowledged what, you know, those public statements would be. And it's all the hot topic, divisive moments. She says, you know,
Right.
your brand lends itself to all different walks of life. You don't want to, you know, you don't want to alienate your client base. And I laughed and I was like, yeah, I do. And she was like, what? I go, yeah, I absolutely do. I was like, there's right and there's wrong, and there's humanity, and there's not. I go, so if it doesn't fall in the circle of it's for the good of humanity for me, then you're outside that circle. And I don't care what you call, I don't care what color you are. I don't care what color you're wearing. I don't care what you're for or against. If we're not talking about for the greater good of humanity, then you're not inside my circle. So that's kind of the perspective that I've always had.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm fucking here for that. All right, let's see. Do our deceased family members and friends hear us and try and send us signs and messages, like when we talk out loud to them?
All the time. And we don't have to talk out loud. I like people to know that you can write to them, you can journalize to them, you can project your thought bubble like, you know, like a graphic novel or a cartoon.
Right.
You don't have to talk out loud. You can, but you don't have to. And you also don't have to go to a cemetery. You can literally go sit underneath the tree outside and feel connected. You could take your shoes off and put your bare feet in the ground and feel connected to the universe that way and talk there. Whatever it is that makes you feel connected, you do. But yeah, they do, and they are, and they will continue to.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in that. I've had too many signs throughout my life to not believe in that. And I mean, a lot have come through you, but there are some, you know, I talk all the time about how my dad and I have this connection through owls. When he passed, my mom and I planted a tree on Father's Day, and an owl came and sat in that tree the night we planted it and was there for like a month. And my whole life, I've had the weirdest run-ins with owls. Like they'll fly across my car in the middle of the day, or they'll be sitting in the most random places. Like it's very clear. So I always resonate that as, you know, with a sign from my dad.
So that's like your dad's way, his shorthand of letting you know, hey, I'm still here. And I use this analogy. If you're driving late at night on a highway anywhere across America and you're hungry and you see a yellow M floating in the distance way down the highway, you know that at that exit, you can get a burger because that's the symbol for McDonald's, right? So that's the symbol that he's chosen or you've chosen and you've kind of agreed upon. And that's the symbol that he'll use. That's
yeah,
cool.
I love that. Okay, let's see. We just answered that one. What are the main reasons that spirits stay behind in this realm after passing, and how can we help them cross over?
So that's one that I have a hard time with because I don't think that that's accurate. I don't think that they stay behind, they get stuck. I think, again, Hollywood and reality shows make people think that they get stuck. I think that there's a process, right? There's a process of when we leave this, when we come into this world, like we labor to come in. And I think we labor to leave as well. But I don't think whether it's a negative passing, and I've seen some horrific stuff. I know that we're met by family members and friends that have gone on before us. From working in the hospital, I can't tell you how many times I knew patients were leaving because of who was coming for them. I was feeling them around their bed. So under circumstances that were not expected, by the way, like sudden heart attacks for somebody that was in there for one reason. And then even accidents, when people die in an accident, when people, if you know people who have passed suddenly, think about the conversations leading up to their passings months before. There are always these like hints that they're getting ready to leave. So I don't believe that people get stuck. Is it possible? Yes. It's not the norm though. So it's not the norm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've heard so many stories about, the tunnel of light, and my dad actually, before he passed, had a brain aneurysm, and he was on the floor of his apartment for, I think, like almost a full day until they found him. And when he went into the hospital, later when he, was revived and came back and was okay, told my mom that he remembered being at the top of the hospital room in the corner looking down at all the doctors working on him. And he turned around and looked up, and it was like this beautiful, warm, like inviting. And he was like, I wanted to go so badly because it just felt like this is the most amazing place I'm ever going to be. And then I had the thought, wait, there's something I have to still do here. And boom, he was back in his body.
And what's really important, what you just said, is that I have something that I need to do. And a lot of people, humans, will go, he needed to come back for me. And I always say, no, he needed to come back for him. You guys are a part of that. But his journey was his journey. And we were all interconnected into that journey. And usually the feeling that people will describe that as is bliss.
Yeah. Well, let's be real. I mean, he came back because he had to, impregnate my mother with me so I could be here. But absolutely, I think that's spot on. Okay. One time I was at my grandpa's gravesite and a squirrel was right next to me the whole time. After that encounter, I see squirrels every day, and I think it's my grandpa keeping an eye on me. Can people who have passed on use animals to communicate to those still living?
100% yes.
Yes.
Yeah. 100% yes.
Like my owl. Yeah.
Yep. It's usually something that, becomes a pattern or a thing that's connected. Was that asked by a CH name, like a Christine or a Chris? Was there a CH connected to that question? Can you tell?
Oh, let me tell you. No, it was a Sammy Salettle.
Oh, there's a CH connected to
that. But I don't know if there's a CH connected to her in any way.
Yeah, I'm just putting that out there because as you were talking, I was getting a CH next to that.
Oh, interesting. Watch her like DM me when this podcast episode comes out. She's freaking out.
That's the squirrel's name.
So, right. That's what I used to call him. Is there one reading specifically? I mean, I know you've done so many over the decades that you've been working, that really stands out to you as being something really special.
Hopefully the next one, like for me, I feel like they're all like that. Everybody asks me like my favorite reading from Crossing Over, the TV show, or, is there one that stands out? They're like kids, they're all, some of them are just, honestly, some of them are just boring. When I say that they're boring, they're just regular readings. They're not all that big moment. Remember one of my first early TV experiences was on Larry King Live, and it's like live and Larry, and he's intense
and pressure.
Yeah, it's literally pressure. And I remember reading for a woman, and I said, "You buried your husband with a pack of cigarettes." And she said, "Yes." And then I saw that it was the wrong brand. And I went, "Oh, he's telling me it was the wrong brand." And she goes, "It was all that I had." You're right. So
oh my God,
that moment was a big wow. And it was like awesome. And people talked about that one reading for years. Now, here's the thing. The reading that happened after that one was a girl whose dad came through and was coming to her wedding in Florida, if I remember correctly. that to me was my favorite reading on the show. It was way more specific and detailed than the one before that. But the wow factor of the one before that and the lady's reaction made it stand out.
Right.
So I kind of realized that it really just has to be validated. It has to be evidential. It has to be accurate. And then people will take from it what they need to take from it. I took the next reading over the other one, but that other one was the one that stood out for people and made it real. So
yeah, to each their own. It's interesting because I would agree with you on the second one. It's those special moments where people are validated that I think is like the real magic in mediumship. John, this has been so freaking incredible. I can't thank you enough. Can you tell everybody where they can find you, where they can follow you, all of the things to come stalk you?
Anything that I do is always on John Edward. There's no S, so it's johnedward.net. Johnedward.net. All my socials are there. Everything is there. TikTok, it's
awesome.
all there.
Yeah, and we will link all of your social medias in the show notes as well. Thank you so much, just first and foremost, for giving me such incredible gifts throughout my younger years that was so pivotal for me, but also for coming to reconnect and be a guest on this show. It's really fucking special for me.
And the dancing? Like, it's like Dancing with the Stars calling you? Like,
not yet, but I'll never say never. I'm open to that. I love a good salsa.
Well, I'm putting it out there.
I love it. You heard it first. I mean, here we go. Put it in the universe. Thank you so much, my friend.
It could be Foxtrot, my life. There you go.
Love it. Love it.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome, dude. Thank you so much. I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. I want to thank John so much. This was such an incredible full circle moment for me. It was so special to have him on this show. I feel like so lucky because in my mind, he's so out of reach for me to have an interview with. And I was just absolutely blown away and touched that he was so forthcoming and wanting to sit down and chat. So a huge thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode as much as I did listening to it. I could have probably gone on and talked to him about this topic for hours. Okay, we are going to take a turn now and jump into some of your FML stories. Here's number 1.
Hey Gabrielle, it's Nikki, and I've got an FML story for you. This is a little different than what you're used to, but I beg to please hear me out. In this story, I'm actually the cheater. I met my ex-husband at a very young age and started dating him for the summer between my junior and senior year of high school. After about a month, he broke up with me to go back to his ex. Fast forward 3 years, and he pops back up single and with a 2-year-old. Literally within the blink of an eye, we were boyfriend and girlfriend and living together. Very quickly, things changed. He said things to me like, "What the fuck did you do to your hair?" after I got my hair colored too dark. Anytime I would get the courage to leave, he'd always want to talk, and he made promises to change. I ended up cheating. He never changed and always got me to stay. I felt so awful, and I cried and I apologized. And then he confessed to me that he too had cheated. I asked him if he ever planned on telling me, and his response was no. We agreed to move forward and try to be better. About a month before our wedding, I found dick pics in his phone that he had been sending to girls on dating sites. He lied, saying he didn't know where they came from and it wasn't his. But come on, really? Anyway, I went forward with marriage. And over the years, things just continually fell apart. He'd ask me questions like, "Why won't you just give me a baby?" When I had tried and cried so many hard times because I was trying so hard. I ended up cheating more because he still wouldn't let me go. He drank a lot and hung out with his friends all the time. There was just never any time for me. Finally, after 9 years, I walked out. He destroyed me. He tried manipulating me into coming back. He told my stepson that I left because I didn't want to be a family with them anymore. He withheld him from me. It was really very awful. Come to find out though, this time he was trying to get me to come back, he was sleeping with my best friend. And I just wasn't here for it anymore. But I'm glad that things happened the way that it happened, because now I have an amazing husband and a beautiful 2-year-old little girl, and I honestly couldn't be happier.
Oh my God. Okay, there's so much to unpack here. First of all, how do you get out of explaining why there's dick pics on your phone? Like, what's the excuse there? Oh, it's not my dick, because that's fucking weird in itself. Or, oh, I was just taking pictures of my dick, but not to send to anybody, because that's a load of shit. Or like, I don't know where these dick pics came from. So your camera just like woke up in the middle of the night and like got your dick hard. And I don't understand like how the mentality of trying to like explain your way out of that would ever work. Look, we all fucking make mistakes. We all fuck up, but I hope that you see, looking back on your story, that it wasn't worth staying and cheating, as opposed to just figuring out a way to break that toxic cycle, which I know can be so difficult when you're in it. And thank God he finally fucked your best friend, because that seems like it set you free. And I'm so glad that you have now found a healthy and happy relationship, because girl, that is not it. Ooh. All right, here's story number 2.
Hi, Gabrielle. My name is Misty Shavers. I am a domestic violence survivor and an internationally recognized certified victims advocate. I know that's a mouthful. And I am also a podcaster and the co-founder of the Man Up movement. I'm also an author, a speaker, and a mentor. I save women all over the world. My podcast is listened to in Singapore and the UK and all different places. I get very many messages saying how I am other women's inspiration, how I am their hero, and all of these things. I survived domestic violence when I was 18 years old. I had just had a baby, and I was beat near death. So I was also not just physically beaten, but emotionally abused and sexually abused by my husband. And he was 24, I was 18, and I had went through a horrible postpartum at 18 years old, and then severe abuse by the hands of somebody I thought loved me. And after that, I got involved in another domestic violence situation that involved drugs and emotional abuse. And I went through a severe eating disorder as well. And I overcame all of those things and severe health issues to become the person that I am today, a podcaster and an advocate. And I love everyone that I come in contact with, and all I'm here to do is serve my purpose from the Lord. And this is my passion, and this is who I am. And it's so wonderful to get to record and to send this to you. And I'm from Alabama, by the way. So talk to you soon. Thank you for the time.
Oh, girl, I'm so sorry that you had to experience that with someone that you thought was meant to protect you and keep you safe. But how you have changed your narrative and changed your story and have used that pain to turn that into your purpose and go out and help other women is really, really fucking beautiful. So thank you for submitting that. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed so you never miss an episode. Keep up with us on Instagram at FML Talk Podcast. If you need more FML Talk content, we have 4 seasons of mini bonus, uncut, unapologetic, and fucking downright inappropriate episodes for you on patreon.com/FML Talk. And if you want to watch these episodes live in studio, you can go to youtube.com/FML Talk. I will see you all next week. And as always, have a self-love cocktail on me. Cheers.